Everybody, welcome back. We're doing another Marvel Future Revolution video. In this one, we are going to be looking at Spider-Man and a build for PVE. Also, tomorrow, plan is to do a deeper dive and discuss with the architect of this build, Mr. Halfsen. So definitely check out that video tomorrow. We'll get into this a little bit more depth, how we got there, etc. So you're going to see an infographic in this one, some basic walkthroughs. Hopefully this helps you. If you want to check out the Discord, we'll put this in the MFR resources channel, so it'll be there. All right, let's get to it.
Bring me WolverThor!
All right, quick shot. I always like to do these. Again, giant shout out to Mr. Halfsen. Recently changed over from Iron Man to Spider-Man. Really likes the gameplay. You can see the build here with the different skills, specializations, companion, and some different gear sets. So I'll dive into that a little bit. And again, reminder, we're going to go even more in depth in this in a video tomorrow. So check that out. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to walk through each one of these skills and I'll tell you what they are, kind of how, why chosen, etc. All right, so we got our Spider-Man running around the game right now. I have to admit, I do love those close-up views. So let's go jump into the skills to start. So first up, you'll see that the skill types, web shooters, spider combat, web shooters. So Halfsen did some testing on these. This is the rotation he really likes. He's got reasons for that. Again, we'll talk about that more in the video tomorrow. So one thing that I do want to touch on before we move further along in the video is, depending what gear set you have on here, there could be a partial argument for maybe going into the spider combat. That really depends on whether you want to lean into that also. And do you want to seclude it for just PvE? Because there are some different things you might do in PvP. Eyes of the Cyrus are without a doubt, with web shooters, one of the best abilities in PvP as well as PvE. So for that reason, landed on that. All right, so in the skills. First up, we got a web shooter class, web shooter mastery. It's a focused web rack. It's got a cooldown of about 23 seconds, a stam 33, decreases movement and accuracy rate. It's always nice to decrease somebody's accuracy rate as a Spider-Man, because that means it's easier for Spider-Man to dodge, which sort of drives you nuts. Hits at a massive level. When you've got a Eye of Osiris on there, I think it gets up to like 1600 or something like that. So it hits really, really hard. The next ability up, and the guard break is low on that. Next ability up, the spider combat shot put. You can see Spider-Man picks up some of the ground, swirls around, hits some people and slams on them, and knocks people back. Guard break medium. It does require a ton of stamina on this, so it's important to make sure you have some good stam recovery there. Cooldown about 26 seconds. But as you can see, the damage is in the 1500 range. That is pretty high. Next up, we've got a spider swing ability, which is the endless swing. It's a 19-second cooldown, or almost 20 seconds, stam 32 of 32. It attacks an enemy with consecutive web swings. It's about 857% damage. You're untargetable. That doesn't necessarily come into play too much in PvE, so it's not necessarily a huge deal, but it does hit very hard. Next ability, another spider combat ability. This one's got probably a shorter cooldown of about 12 seconds, a lower stam at 21. Knock back some enemy when it lands. You're also doing the status or the stacking web effects. Also doing the decreased movement speed and accuracy rate, which we mentioned earlier. The damage here is about 774%. Not gigantic, but pretty solid. You might be able to come back to this one if needed later, but you always want to make sure that you can use your web shot ability. And then last but not least, we've got another web shot ability that's got a really short cooldown of 9 seconds, stam of 18. It drags when the skill lands, stacks webs, accuracy rate, speed reduction, all the things we've been mentioning, and it hits for 502% damage. So those are the abilities. This one in particular is the gyroscope. I don't know if I mentioned that at the front end. But if you're going to want to build skills PvE wise, that's what you're going to want to do. All very solid skills. Again, we'll get into the gear in a little bit. Now let's jump to specializations. So you can see that I don't have specializations built out. So the numbers that you're going to see aren't necessarily what they are. This is the first one, Spider Combat. It's the orange one, Green Goblin Madness. Essentially with this one, you're gaining a bunch of total damage, but the loss of defense. I think I remember him saying it's 20 or 28% total damage at level 10, and the decrease of defense is like 18 or 20% or something like that. But given Spider-Man, you want to build more dodge anyway. Certainly losing defense hurts because you're going to get hit harder, but that total damage, especially in PvE, is very, very worth it. Next up, we've got the one that sort of looks like a spider shooting something. I don't know what exactly that is. I thought it was a mountain at first. You convert dodge percentage into damage. You build dodge on Spider-Man all the time. You want to make sure to always get that built up. And so since you've got so much of that, it just straight up converts it into damage. So the more dodge you got, the more damage you get. No brainer here. Electro's agility is the specialization. Next up, we've got this yellow one, which is called Grasp of the Octopus. Increases spider combat class skill damage by 2%. I mentioned that we've got 3 spider combat abilities. You want to get those hitting as hard as you can. Again, one more reason someone might look into, like, say, Xanderth or steampunk gear outfits if they really just like that spider combat stuff better. Okay, can't necessarily argue with that. It's not a bad option. So there's some flexibility there if you're looking into that. And then last but not least, and this one kind of combos with the other dodge one, is this increases max dodge rate. I think it goes up to 15 or 20% or something like that. But basically you want to get it so that your max dodge is higher. And so that way when we're talking about this one where you generate your dodge rate into damage, well, you can go higher so you get more damage. So it makes sense to go ahead and use this last one here, Spider Sense, Transcend Sense, to get that dodge increased higher. Companion wise, look, this is sort of a no-brainer a little bit. It's, you know, one of the best companions in the game, America Chavez. She just does great damage and helps you increase your damage in PvE when she gives that, what is it, like 30% or whatever it is, when increases damage received by 30% for 6 seconds. It's fantastic. She's a top tier companion. Didn't even really list any other ones, frankly, because I just think this makes the most sense. You know, if you want to use your Icaruses, Thenas, Circes, okay, but I think in the end of the day, typically America Chavez is going to be the one that's best. So now let's jump into gear. So the gear part you can see here, we've got Sakaar. Now I threw in Savage Shadowlands, which I'm going to touch on in a second, and Iowa Osiris. So first up, before I get into those 3, I want to talk about the Xanderth one, which again is the spider damage class or spider combat class. That is not a bad option. It is not bad. It's decent if you really like the spider combat. Now technically, where is it? Hydra also has spider combat on it. Or I'm sorry, that's a web shooter. So I'll mention this since I brought it up. But did not mention web shooter as one of these options because of the fact that 3 sets defense. Just don't do it. There's so many other options that you can use on with characters that can use Hydra. I wouldn't put it on Spider-Man. So I think that that's something that you definitely want to just I'd avoid it. So Xanderth is one we want. So we want to use Sakaar for sure as a regional. If you're looking at this web shooter, this is the one with dodge. It's better. Like I mentioned Hydra before, that's got defense. This gives you more dodge. Remember, we want to convert dodge into damage. You increase that cap rate. Clearly, Sakaar is something that you want to be using there if you're not going the special route. So drop that Sakaar on your Spider-Man. It's certainly top notch. Now, I mentioned Savage Shadowlands. You don't see a lot of people build Savage Shadowlands, mainly because it's PvE exclusive. We do not get enough fodder to build these. Now, having said that, Netmarble seems to make games where eventually you sort of need things. They slow build stuff and they evolve and grow and grow and grow. I'm hopeful, while we're working through a lot of the issues in this game at the moment, that they continue to do that. So for that purpose, I would not use your Savage Shadowlands for fodder. I would heavily consider using it for characters like Spider-Man, which, you know, might be perfect for just PvE. Maybe we get enough fodder one day to build a bunch of different sets. Who knows? We'll see. Because I really like the 2-set bonus of crit rate, the 3-set bonus of supervillain damage, and then you also get the web shooter class. Could work perfectly for you. Ties right in with the stuff we're talking about. It just gives you additional supervillain damage. So really like that. We'll talk about the video with Halfson, what you want to do with your cards. So again, check that out tomorrow. But where you get those stats is definitely critical. All right, so before I jump into Osiris, again, if you want to think about steampunk, it's not a bad idea. It's not, you know, if anybody gives you a hard time, we haven't tested it per se, but Halfson looked at some of the numbers, says, you know what, he could see it. I was like, yeah, all right, let's go. But Osiris, again, web shooters all day, every day. These are just, it makes Spider-Man just so dominant in so many game modes as far as, you know, PvP. And then obviously he is a good PvE character, which again, we'll talk about a lot more. We'll look at some of the time runs and how much damage he's putting up. Really did sort of refine this build, but when you're looking at gear, these are the ones that we're going to highly recommend. And if you got so much fodder, you're thinking about, you know what am I going to do with this Savage Shadowlands? And I need a PvE build for Spider-Man. It's not so bad. You know, maybe you don't have an Osiris to build, and you don't want to use them for any PvP, but you want to use them for PvE. Well, you know, we'll see how squad battles turns out, but you know, this is something you want to think about. So again, I really like what Spider-Man is bringing to the table these days. You know, he used to be just, I don't know. I didn't even have, like, when I was talking PvE with this guy, I was just like, no. But, you know, some players, and Halfson specifically, has done a crazy deep dive on this guy. Really made it so he's formidable. He's got some power to him, and we really want to talk about, you know, what he did to make that stronger. And so, like I mentioned, video tomorrow on that, so you can check it out, get his thoughts. If you want to like and subscribe, we always appreciate that. Hammer down the like button if you do it. Any comments that you have about this build, or maybe a build that you think is a little different, we'd love to see them below. Or come to the Discord, which is in the description below. We love to have chats there from time to time, talking builds, etc. Always appreciate any sort of support you want to do, notification bells, etc. There's a join button that YouTube recently put out there as well. So thanks for stopping by. Appreciate you lasting this long. Until next time, hope you have a wonderful day.